I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. We were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good. Such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it to support our incredible movement. We won states that we weren't expected to. In Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won. So I just want to thank you. And I want to thank all of our support. I want to thank all of the people that worked with us, and Mr. Vice President.
Now, Joe Biden has just won the state of Michigan. His lead is now too big for Donald Trump to catch him. Joe has won the state of Wisconsin, where the Trump campaign has demanded a recount. But the breaking news is Michigan has now gone the way of Joe Biden. So the magic number is 270 of Electoral College votes. That brings Joe Biden to 253. Donald Trump is back on 213. Let's go to Joe Hockey in Washington, our former ambassador. Joe Hockey, good morning.
Morning, Ben.
Joe Biden's the president?
Likely, but just don't get ahead of your skis. You know,
what's in the way? A recount, a court action? What's in the way?
All of the above. But there's plenty of good reason to have litigation. I mean, it is a complete dog's breakfast right across, not just in Pennsylvania, but right across the country. I mean, there are 10,000 different organisations that are responsible for setting the rules for the US presidential election. 10,000. In Australia, you have the Australian Electoral Commission, thank God, that governs the rules for federal laws, for federal elections. In the US, there are 10 every state, and then you have counties and you have cities. And if there's a strong bias one way or the other, they do everything they can to either suppress the vote or to increase the vote. It's a mess.
So there's a chance that electoral fraud has happened?
Oh, for sure. Oh, I mean, it will be. But the question is whether it's enough to change the election outcome, and I doubt it is. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, in some states, they send out ballot papers to every household. So, for example, in Washington, D.C., they send out ballot papers to every household, and some people got 2 ballot papers. It might have been, Ben Fordham, Ben J. Fordham, Mr. Fordham, whatever the different titles might be. And of course, last night in Washington, D.C., 93% of the city voted for Joe Biden. 93%. Even my best booth in Longueville, God bless them, where the Kidmans were handing out for the Labor Party, even my best booth, I got 83%. 93% in the city. I find it hard to believe. So, there's a lot of areas where it's very busy.
Mark Latham, it makes our system look pretty good, doesn't it, by comparison? These claims by Trump of fraud in terms of the counting, is there any basis to it?
Well, Koshi, you've only got to look at some of the evidence that's emerging. In Wisconsin, they've had a 90% voter turnout for voluntary voting. 90%, no one's ever heard of this volume of voting. So it does raise the allegation, where did all the votes come from? And the systems put in place about the mail-in ballots are extraordinarily lax. You could get a vote just with an email address, not proof of ID. You could turn up on the day and register. You're not on the roll, you say, here I am, give me my vote. And you've got some evidence of people who voted supposedly born during the time of Abraham Lincoln. In Michigan, there's a long list of people who were born 150 years ago. So we're lucky in Australia, we have an independent national electoral commission and little opportunity for electoral fraud. But in the way the Americans set it up, and you can go back to the Nixon-Kennedy election and Lyndon Johnson, I mean, it's almost like electoral fraud in their system is a national hobby. Well, often in an American election, it's who's the best organised raughter. And there's no doubt in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota, Democrat-controlled states, that the Democrats have got an extraordinarily high voter turnout. We'll have to find out where all those votes have originated. The American system, in their constitution, they've got many great things, but the dumbest thing they ever did is say that every state is in control of its own voting system, and every county can be in control of its own voting system, very often run by people from a political party.
Yeah, the chance of that...
Well, for his take on the state of play in America, I'm joined now by Sunrise Foreign Editor Dr. Keith Suter. Good morning to you, Dr. Keith. There are lawsuits everywhere. If this gets to the Supreme Court in America, can we trust it to be bipartisan?
Yes, but I don't think it's going to get very easy to the Supreme Court. You can only go to the Supreme Court if there's a constitutional issue, so it'll need to emerge from the lower courts. I think the Supreme Court, which got involved 20 years ago, has lived to regret getting involved. So I think there'd be great reluctance to have it go up to the Supreme Court.
And do you see that there is any evidence of fraud?
No. The electoral system is pretty primitive compared with what we've got in Australia, but no evidence of the fraud. Trump has scored a remarkable, not victory, but obviously he's minimised the extent of the defeat. The opinion polls were all wrong. The projected wave that was going to sweep of anti-Trump feeling has not taken place. The Republicans still control the Senate, and there's turmoil amongst the Democrats in the lower house as to who should be leading them. So it's very interesting that Trump has minimised the extent of the defeat compared with what was being predicted.
What do you put it down to that he has been much more successful than what anyone thought that he would be?
He's a brilliant campaigner. We've known that all along. He's brilliant at marketing. Not very good as president, but brilliant at marketing and selling himself. And it clearly resonated with a large number of Americans. The voter turnout has been record-breaking, and the amount of votes that he's got has also been an achievement as well.
Well, Dr. Keith Suter, we watch anxiously and wait. Thank you so much, as always, for your insights.
Literally, Biden-Harris face masks in polling locations, which is totally illegal. And now they won't let, and we brought one great gentleman here with us today, Jeremy, who's a poll watcher down at the convention center. They won't even let him watch as they count the ballots. They put them behind a fence, 40, 50 yards away, where they actually can't see the counting happening. Guys, this is fraud. This is absolute fraud. We've seen it in Philadelphia before. They're trying to make a mockery of the election of this country. My father is up by almost 500,000 votes in this state, with 86% reported, and plenty of red counties left to go. Plenty of red counties left to go. We're going to win Pennsylvania, but they're trying to cheat us out of it because they know it's their only path to victory. They know it's the only path to victory. And so we came here today, we met with all our lawyers. We are going to file suit in Pennsylvania. It's a shame that we have to do that. It's the last thing that we wanted to do. It's the last thing my father wanted to do. But this is rampant corruption, and it can't happen. It simply can't happen. It's not fair. This isn't democracy. And with that, I want to pass it off to the great Rudy Giuliani, who's really leading the legal effort, and we'll be hearing from Rudy quite a bit. Please.
Thank you very much, Eric. It is very, very sad that we're here in the city that's really the birthplace of our democracy. And this is among one of the most anti-democratic things I've ever seen or encountered. And it's not just here in Philadelphia. This is going on all over the country. We have filed a lawsuit. The lawsuit actually required that when these mail-in ballots that you know are highly suspicious anyway, this form of balloting has always been considered the most prone to fraud. That's according to the New York Times when it didn't apply to candidate President Trump. Well, we were supposed to be allowed by law to observe the counting of the ballots. Now, observe means, to any intelligent person, being able to look at it. The way it's interpreted by the Democrat crooked machine of Philadelphia is that the observers can be 20 or 30 feet away, never able to see the ballot itself, never able to see if it was properly postmarked, properly addressed, properly signed on the outside. All the things that often lead to disqualification of ballots or make it very easy to dump 50,000 totally fraudulent ballots because they're not observed. This went on for 20 hours. While all of you thought there was some kind of legitimate count going on here in Philadelphia, it was totally illegitimate. So we went back to court, and we went before a Democrat judge. No need to tell you what the result in Philadelphia is if you're before a Democrat judge. Obviously a political hack who doesn't know the meaning of the word observe. Observe means to be able to look. Not a single Republican has been able to look at any one of these mail ballots. They could be from Mars, as far as we're concerned, or they could be from the Democratic National Committee. Joe Biden could have voted 50 times, as far as we know, or 5,000 times. The ballots could be from Camden. Philadelphia, unfortunately, and I say this about my own city, has a reputation for voter fraud. You have a reputation for dead people voting, and we're going to go look at just how many dead people voted here. I didn't think we'd have to do that, but we will. And you'll have a reputation for people being busted in from Camden voting here. Wouldn't be the first time that happened. But this goes way beyond any of that. And let me also add that this isn't happening just here. We have exactly the same lawsuit in Wisconsin, where exactly the same thing happened. Except in Wisconsin, mysteriously at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, about 120,000 ballots appeared. Oh, here come these ballots. Well, we have no idea if they really are ballots. We have no idea if they're signed, if they're postmarked properly, if it isn't just the same person who submitted 100,000 ballots, and they all got counted. This is the way they intend to win. Now I'm informed by former Congressman Sweeney, who's been going around the country and collecting this information, that similar situation in Arizona, similar situation in Nevada, and a similar situation, what am I missing, John? Where are you? In Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan. Again, let me be specific what it is. This whole new thing that never happened before in our country, these mail-in ballots, which has been a cause of real concern for everyone because they can easily be fraudulent. Well, one of the things that the law attaches to that is the right for both parties to observe the ballot, the way we do with absentee ballots. You make certain it's properly signed. On the outside, there's a signature. You make sure that it's properly postmarked. You make sure that it's properly addressed, and then you pass on it. A number of these are often challenged by the Democrat representative or the Republican representative. We never got a chance to look at a single one of them. The gentleman here who did this for us says about 100,000 ballots went through that process in the 20-plus hours in which they wasted his time by not allowing him to see a single ballot. Well, that's 120,000 ballots that should just be taken out of the count. So you want to look at that number, that 120,000 should come out. And this is an area in which Biden is getting 60, 70% of the vote. I don't know this is going on any other place, but it is going on in enough frequency in Wisconsin. We brought suit. Now we'll have to look into 3 other places. What it says to me is this is a concerted effort of the crooks to run the Democrat Party. And you know these big city machines are crooked. You know that. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years of one-party rule leads to corruption of all kinds. Voter fraud is one of the biggest because that's how you keep your power. But we're not going to let them get away with it. They're not going to steal this election. This election gets decided by the people. These people, the elite, they don't care about the people. The people are the deplorables, the chumps. They're not important. To President Trump, he's the whole reason that he ran for office.
And he's the whole reason for which he's carrying on this campaign, so that your vote can mean something, so that your vote doesn't get wiped out by 100,000 fraudulent, meaningless paper ballots that no one gets to observe. So we are going to continue the lawsuit here. We're going to bring a second one, and then we're going to bring a federal lawsuit. And we're going to take a very good look at whether we bring this nationally. We certainly are going to bring it here and in Wisconsin. Quite possibly, we'll do a national lawsuit and really expose the corruption of the Democrat Party. But this is beyond anything I've ever seen before. This comes when you think you have so much power and you own the media that you can do anything you want. Well, sorry. We're going to fight for the people. We're going to vindicate their right. And the ultimate result is President Trump has won Pennsylvania. I've never heard of a count where you're ahead by 400,000 with 80+% counted, and they haven't called it for you yet. They called California the moment the polls closed. How many votes do you have to be ahead to win, for a Republican to win here? How many votes do we have to be ahead? 400,000 is not enough? With 80+% counted, I think there's only 14% of the vote to go. Do you think we're stupid? You think we're fools? You know something? The Democrats do think you're stupid, and they do think you're fools, and that's why you get called deplorable and chumps. It's over. We're going to stick with this. We're going to win this election. We've actually won it. It's just a matter of counting the votes fairly. So I'd like to ask former Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi, to explain what's been going on at the polling places, which is just as dastardly and just as criminal.